We're off on everything, aren't we?
So do you want the speaker off too?
Mics. So none of mine are working.
What is that speaker?
You can control our speaker too, right?
Go ahead.
Mine does work.
Okay.
If
Anyone saying
if
anything?
you need it.
Yeah, if I gotta go out the bar, you know. Bob the painter.
I haven't done it, Bob Ross. That's the whole reason. Bob Ross.
All right. Good morning. It's 9 a.m. I mean, not 9 a.m. It's 8:30. I'm used to that. Time to call to order our November 21st, 2024 meeting of the Oklahoma City Airport Trust. And our first item is to approve the minutes of the October 24th, 2024 Oklahoma City Airport Trust meeting. Is there a motion and second? And the item passes. Next up, we have our director's report.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things to bring the trust up to speed on. First of all, so the airport is part of the city's Heart of the City program. It's a United Way campaign that we have every year, and this is we have just completed our the airport's portion of that. And we had a goal of 26,500, and we actually raised 31,213. So very happy with those results. Wanted to, and if you could just indulge me for a minute, there were a number of people on that committee. I'm just going to identify who they were and recognize them for their great results. And it involves a number of events that we hold over the year, internally fundraising, and then of course our donations that we provide. So Tanya Marty and Eric Bear and Brian Stone, Grant Toomey, Michelle Folks, Caleb Phillips, Terry Wilkie, Sylvia Darcy Schalk, and Nathan Munn. So thank you to all of those and all of our employees who have contributed to the campaign. So, yep, happy to report that. So on the air service front, we had an announcement just the other day. So Frontier Airlines is going to be starting service to Orlando in March of 2025. So we now will have 2 carriers with nonstop service to Orlando. And that's been one of our targets, is Florida, trying to get more flights there. So that's some good news. In October, we had 413,000 passengers, which I believe was another record for that month. So again, with the exception of January, every month this year, we've had a record month of passengers. So it continues. I think, and that's about 5% above last year, which would put us about 4.6 million passengers for the year if we stay on this track. We were at 4.4 million in 2023. So 2 more months to go, but that's looking good. So next, in your meeting packet and up on the screen, I've got a couple slides to run through, and what I wanted to do was just highlight some 2024 year in review, as it says, and then introduce some ideas for 2025. The intention is just to have a short review of some of this stuff, and then come back and finalize a report by the end of the year that would kind of be our business plan proposed for 2025. So also we'll have this information in a more extensive written report on some of these items that we're going to talk about. So Lana, if you could go to the next one. This is something, we're part of the city Leading for Results program. We have our own metrics there. We created kind of our own little statement for the airport over the last year, and that is just our mission is connect Oklahoma City to people, places, and possibilities, something we use for our new employees and for our own internal uses. Strategic priorities, that's what we've had before. We developed that a couple years ago. And then from that, we developed these values: safe, open, agile, and reliable. Something we focus on every day for all of our employees to focus on what we feel is important for all of our airports. So, next slide. And then the strategic priorities: customers, our infrastructure assets, our resources, and our people. That's kind of how we break down the approach that we've taken over the last couple of years, and that's how we kind of review what we have accomplished in 2024 and where we would make sense for us to keep focusing in 2025. So, next slide. So with our customers, go ahead, Lana. So we continue to have taken customer satisfaction surveys, and so we've taken a lot of them. We've been using this program called ASQ, and we're going on 2 years now of doing the surveys, and we continue to see good results, 4.29 to 4.45, in that range on a scale of 5, which, based on the survey results, is excellent. I will say one of the challenges that it is there's a lot of surveys that we have to take, and we're looking for maybe a different survey platform to use because it takes a lot of staff and volunteer time to go into the concourse and to get the surveys that we need to satisfy the platform's requirements. So we may be looking at maybe a different approach starting in 2025. A big effort that we've had underway over the last year is the website update, and that continues. And we will have an internal website active that the staff will be utilizing starting December 1st to roll it out, to look at the information, to make any last-minute changes. And then by the end of December, we'll go active live to the public with the website. And the idea, as it indicates there, is just to make it more user-friendly, navigation for our customers to find information they're looking for, and to offer new services via the website. And down at the bottom of that slide, you'll see parking. We've started a new mobile pay option already. That's already in place. We've finished our new covered parking lot, which gives us 600 more spaces. And then there's the reservation system, which will be part of that new website. We're ready to have that hit the ground running right in January of 2025. So then customers will be able to go and reserve parking in all of our parking products. So someone will be able to get that accomplished.
And can we ask questions and
Sure,
or
go ahead.
comments? I'm so excited about that, Jeff. As you know, I know some of these things are whittling away at the edges, but getting a online reservation system that's better than what we have was critical, because right now on the parking spaces you can reserve, it's like $5 to reserve it, and then people don't come.
Right.
And so my understanding is the new system, you'll be charged if you come or not, which I think is really important. That causes people to go and return it
Yes.
when they don't use it. $5, no one's going back to return anything. But if you're talking about $25 or $50, you're going to go grab that back and return it, and then someone else can park. So I'm excited about that. On the, I forgot to ask you though, what about the top of the parking garage? That's been we've called it the hourly, but I'm not sure. What is that? How is that going to be impacted in the new system?
Well, that's just available for people for short-term parking, hourly as it describes. So I don't believe, Eric, that's part of the reservation system. We'll obviously keep that available for people, for meeters and greeters and other people here for short-term. So except with the exception of the hourly parking product, all the other products, the garage, the surface lot, the canopy covered, will all be part of the reservation system.
Okay. And then on that hourly parking, I think that's an opportunity one day to maybe create some more reserved spaces and some more revenue, because it is great parking. And
It is.
I don't know how full it is on a daily basis compared to the other.
Well, it
parking
depends on the time of the year. Generally not very full, but it certainly has filled up in this peak summer times just because of lack of parking. Next slide is in the terminal itself, and these, again, are all customer-focused improvements. So restrooms upgrades are underway. As you can see there, they've started, and the focus will be on the secure side in the concourse area. And then the retail and restaurant development, we completed that this year. Hatch was the last one that was completed, so we're in good shape there. There has been some interest expressed in business lounge kind of activity that some other airports have, and so it's something that I think we'll start looking at in 2025. The question will be of the right space. Is there space to do that? Don't know that, but that's an area that we've had some interest expressed in also. Okay, next, infrastructure and assets. Go ahead, Lana. So, Federal Inspection Station, as it says, will be completed in January 2025. Related with that, of course, is air service. And that's been a focus of us for the last year, is attracting new air service, international air service, with the FIS being available for use starting early next year. We've had a number of meetings with airlines about that kind of service, have had some positive response. We don't have a specific date or route set yet, but I feel there is interest from a couple different airlines that we will have something in 2025. Our boarding bridge project, we replaced 6 in 2024. We've got a number more that will be replaced in 2024. A number more that will be replacing in 2025. The baggage carousels and baggage claim, that we've awarded that contract. They'll be beginning work in earnest in January and providing us 6 new baggage carousels and baggage claim. The terminal master plan, I'm just going to mention it here, but we recently, over the last year, have done a study with the consultant to look at development at the airport long-term for 30-plus years going out. Looking at space that's available, what we need for gates and for parking and for really everything that we provide. And I plan to bring that to the trust at a later meeting to go over it in a little more detail, but essentially it shows long-term what we would need to do to meet our growth and retain our capacity, which includes another garage, which includes reconstructing the terminal roadway and changing the whole front of the terminal area, ultimately expanding the terminal building. But we've got some exhibits and have some detail that we'd be happy to go over. Hangar development, it's 2024, it's been a busy year. So we've got AAR at OKC, and that hangar is underway, and that's a development that is using State of Oklahoma funding, and AAR is also providing funding. And that project started this past summer. It's scheduled to be complete by the beginning of 2026, so we have a year to go, but we're excited about that. We had a number of hangars developed at Wiley Post over the last year. One of them was a new corporate hangar in the Northeast Development area, and then both Atlantic and private jets, FBOs at the airport, developed hangars over the last year. Also, we're excited that we were able to get Putnam City High School into one of the buildings at Wiley Post for an aviation classroom, so that's underway. And Clarence Page, we have a self-fueling tank that's in place. We're just waiting to hook up the credit card machine, and that should be ready to go here in January. So, and then next, resources and people. So we've negotiated a new 5-year lease with the airlines, and so over the next month or so, you will be receiving airline leases for approval. We actually were able to reduce the terminal building rate for the airlines for the next 5 years. We reconfigured the lease, so that helps us in retain and attract service for the airlines. Did some reorganization, added an additional assistant director over the last year. Our financial position continues to remain strong. A big focus of the city and at the airport is the employee surveys that we've been doing the last couple of years. And we, based on some of the survey results, we changed some of our scheduling at the airport. We provided some more flexibility in people's schedules for working. And we'll continue to look at the survey results, looking for changes that we can make there. We just kicked off a new internal training program, and it's essentially, if you take all the classes that we're offering, it's about a 2-year time frame, in both for professional development and for aviation training. So we're excited about that. Developed a recognition program that we call High Five, recognizing your coworkers for a great job they've done, and that's been in place for the last year. And then we've had internships now 2 years that we bring in college grads from aviation programs. They primarily have been from Oklahoma and Oklahoma State University. So, and then want to spend just a minute on a preview for 2025 and some of the things that are on our radar for the next year. Replacing the rest, we have beautiful terrazzo floors in the new part of the terminal building, and so our plan is to replace the tile floors that we have throughout the rest of the building, with both on the concourse side and the ticket counter side, with terrazzo floors. Now that will be a multi-year project, but we hope to get that started in 2025. The age of the tile, we're often in full-time maintenance and repair of that of the flooring, and so we feel it's time to try to bring the rest of that floor up to a new standard. The restroom remodels will continue. The baggage claim updates. We're in probably in about the 10 to 15% of the parking garage design phase. We're working with an architect on that. And then the airline service, we continue to have multiple meetings with airlines, and in fact, just recently, with Bob's help, started working with the Chamber of Commerce, and we have an air service committee that we've set up, and we meet probably every 2 months and just kind of talk about ideas and where we should be targeting, on the horizon for new service. So that's underway and will be very helpful. I already mentioned the long-term terminal expansion, development, Lariat Landing, our business park on the east side. This year we'll be putting some more water and sewer extensions in, and it's really to facilitate development of more commercial activity. Generally, that would be restaurants and hotels and things like that, which need a smaller footprint. And so extending water and sewer in some streets in that area will help facilitate that development. Wiley Post, really trying to accelerate development, especially of hangars there at Wiley Post. We're working with the State of Oklahoma Aerospace and Aeronautics Department with a grant that will allow us to build some hangars at the Northeast Development Area. They would be box hangars, so they'd be smaller hangars, but we're looking to put about 8 of them in that area over the next year. And then continue to work with tenants on more hangar development, whether it's commercial hangar development or private hangar development. We have a couple of ongoing conversations there. And then C.E. Page, over the last year, we began an effort looking at that airport for long-term industrial development. There's an interest from the city and the local business community to try to find a larger footprint for large-scale development. And that's an area on the west side of the community on Wiley Post, on C.E. Page Airport and adjacent, where the intention is to assemble a large parcel that then could accommodate a large development for the community. We're going through some environmental reviews at this point. That's the stage of our review process. That will continue over in 2025, and ultimately we'll work with the FAA in order to convert that property. We'd need their approval to do that, to take it out of an aeronautical development to non-aeronautical development. So the OCAT developer concept is something that I think it's time to look at in a little more detail what that means is that we consistently have had a lot of interest in our properties at all of our airports and with aerospace development. But what we hear from the aerospace communities especially is that they're looking for someone to develop the infrastructure, the improvements, the hangars and the buildings. And I think that we, OCAT, may have a role in developing the infrastructure. So the idea would be ultimately the airport and the trust would build the improvement, be an aircraft hangar, and then lease the ground and the building to the aerospace company. There is some history here. 25 plus years ago, OCAT did do some hangar development, and that's where AAR is today. So there is some history there. It's been a while. But I just think it's time to take a look at that because it seems that we have a gap here that would be good to fill. So the idea would be for us to have some help, look at some financial models and others that would make sense to see what would make sense for us as far as our capital, our balance sheet, what would make sense for us to put out for development. And so wanted to at least put that on everyone's radar that I think that's something that makes sense for us to start looking at. Ground lease rates, we did do a study. We hired a consultant to look at ground lease rates from comparable airports all around the U.S. to Oklahoma City. And we will be coming back to you guys here probably in December to talk about that with the idea that we think that some of our rates relative to comparable airports are below market. And so it's time to take a look at that and see how we make some adjustments. The trust and bond indenture is something that is related to one of our upcoming projects, which is building another garage will require us to go out to issue bonds. We think it's a good opportunity to look at the trust and bond indenture. Those are both old documents, and they have some limitations. And we've been meeting with bond counsel to look at that and potentially make some of those changes that we think would be helpful. And then finally, people in training, really continue what we've been doing. Use the employee survey to make adjustments, fully implement our internal training program to help our employees. So that's a quick snapshot. And again, what we will end up with is more of a detailed written report that we will circulate to all of you for input, but with the timing that we have that wrapped up by the end of this year.
Okay. I think that's a good overview, and good to see that the airport is forward-thinking continually. So I like that. Our next item up is the OKC Will Rogers International Airport.
Mr. Chairman, one thing I wanted to mention, and what I would suggest is there is an item under Director's reports for self-field waiver requests. There's a memo in the packet, and it's for informational purposes. I know that we have a speaker on this, so I think maybe we'll come back to that after we get through the agenda, if that makes sense for you. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, let me find. I've got one.
Yeah, what we'll do is you take your item E, and at the end of
Yeah, we'll
of
just
all
come
of
back
these.
to that. So,
Okay.
yep.
Okay.
Okay. So under item A, it's Amendment 1 and final acceptance for the multi-purpose building parking lot, joint and pavement repairs at Mike Maroney Aeronautical Center. Item B is Amendment 1 for the CAMI elevator 20 at the Mike Maroney Aeronautical Center. Item C is Amendment 1 with the custodial service contract with R2 Consulting to add the new maintenance facility. Item D is Amendment 2 to the concessions agreement with Airport Express for taxi cab and shuttle services. Item E is change number 2 with Downey Contracting for the Federal Inspection Services Facilities build-out. Item F is change order 3 with Shiloh Enterprises for the multi-bay maintenance facility addition. Item G is ground service agreement with Kaylee Hospitality LLC. Item H is ground service agreement for courtesy vehicle services with Northwest Hospitality. Item I is resolution waiving formal competitive proposal process and ratifying informal competitive proposal process for obtaining professional services for common use passenger processing systems. Item J is resolution approving the sole source purchase and installation of ski data, parking access, and revenue control system. Item K is aircraft de-icing, anti-icing product storage and use agreement with United Parcel Service.
You've heard the request for approval. Any questions? Is there a motion and a second? And the item passes. Next up, we have Wiley Post Airport.
Mr. Chairman, item A is resolution authorizing the purchase of professional services from Garver for terminal apron pavement rehabilitation. And item B is amendment number 1 to the surface damages and use agreement with FP Overlook for an additional natural gas transmission line.
Okay. You've heard the request for approval. Is there a motion and a second? And the item passes. Okay. Next up, we have Clarence C. Page Airport.
Item A is subscription service agreement with QT Pod to provide subscription services for the self-serve terminal.
Okay. Heard the request for approval. Any questions? Is there a motion and a second? And the item passes. Next, we have General.
Ratify and approving addendum 1 to the annual maintenance contracts to Elva Roofing, Oklahoma Roofing and Sheet Metal LLC, and Supreme Roofing Done Right for the annual roofing maintenance and repairs contract. Item B is resolution authorizing Director of Airports to purchase airport equipment, supplies, and services from the lowest code of supplier utilizing Sourcewell agreements.
You've heard the request for approval. Is there a motion and a second? And the item passes. Next up, we have easements.
Item A is an easement with Moore Public Schools Independent District at 12,800 South May Avenue. Item B is a navigation easement at Southwest 29th Street and South Portland Avenue. Item C is a navigation easement at 7720 Northwest Expressway. Item D is an easement agreement for Oklahoma Gas and Electric to provide electric services for AAR Hangar 4 at OKC Will Rogers Airport.
Okay. You've heard the request for approval. Is there a motion and second? And the item passes. Next up, we have item 9, requisitions. It's a resolution ratifying the prior approval of certain requisitional payments and a resolution approving requisition payments themselves. Is there a motion and a second? And the item passes. At this time, we have one
Do you want to
individual.
do
Yes, you can
trustees
go ahead.
first, or?
Okay. Do we have questions? Any questions from trustees?
Okay,
Do we have any comments from staff? Okay.
Terry, I will, so, yeah, just go back, and so in the agenda, there is an item under my report, aircraft self-fueling and self-service policy variance requests. There's a memo in the meeting packet, and there were 2 requests, and the memo kind of goes through some detail of the 2 tenants and the situations. And what I've identified in the memo is that my plan is to, there was one from Pronto Aviation, which I do plan to provide the waiver, and then there was also a request from Frymiller Aviation, which I do not plan to provide that variance. So just that kind of sets up the situation, and I know that there's a
Okay.
citizen for comment, so.
Okay. You want to call?
Sure. Eric Wells.
Yes.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Eric Wells. I'm the president and co-owner of Private Jets, Inc., JetSet FPO, and Repair Station. I've been in the aviation business since 1995. My team and I operate the largest fleet of charter aircraft in the state. We opened our FBO in February of 2020, and we have sold over 1 million gallons in the last 12 months. We employ over 100 people, and we are the only Oklahoman-owned FBO in the state, or in Oklahoma City. I feel we have added significant value to Wiley Post Airport. I was born and raised in Oklahoma. It is my home, and I want to see this city and airport prosper. I am also an ATP-rated pilot with over 20,000 flight hours. I am qualified in 11 different jet aircraft. I'm an FAA check airman instructor and have held all of the FAA air carrier management positions. I am here to request OCAT grant a variance to David Freimiller to self-fuel his aircraft. My relationship to Mr. Freimiller is I have managed his aviation interests and assets for the past 15 years. I want to be clear that me being here and advocating for this variance does not help me or my companies in any way. In fact, it hurts me financially because we currently sell fuel to Mr. Freimiller. I'm here because I feel this is the right thing to do. In the memo to the trustees, I feel there are some fundamental misunderstandings and errors. The first is commercial versus non-commercial operations. The FAA defines commercial as compensation or hire, and further defines compensation. A lease is by definition a commercial operation. I feel OCAT incorrectly applied their own policy in allowing a leased aircraft to be fueled and denying Mr. Freimiller to fuel an aircraft he owns for his own private use. To this point, neither Mr. Freimiller nor myself would allow any charter operations to be conducted from his hangar. Any charter flights that originate out of Wiley Post will be fueled by and depart from one of the 3 FBOs on the field. Regarding unfair advantage, there are existing commercial tenants with their own fuel, so a precedent has been set. Also, by allowing any self-fuel facility creates an unfair advantage and hurts the 3 FBOs on the field that make their living selling fuel. Additionally, 50% of the charter flights we conduct in Mr. Freimiller's aircraft originate at airports outside of Oklahoma City. Mr. Freimiller will directly employ someone to fuel his aircraft and comply with OCAT requirements. I also own 2 hangar leasehold interests at San Antonio International Airport with a self-fuel facility. The master lease does not have these restrictions. On the contrary, it allows fuel sales to lessees and sublessees. Another thing for OCAT to consider if this variance request is denied is who will maintain that fuel tank. This will be an additional expense for OCAT to maintain or remove the fuel tank. Or the option is to have Mr. Freimiller pay this expense plus flowage fees. My recommendation is to reconsider allowing Mr. Freimiller to have access to the fuel farm to put fuel into his own aircraft for his own use. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. I would recommend that we
Yep.
Look to you to take this under consideration as you're looking for.
No, I understand.
Is it appropriate to talk?
Yeah,
this
sure.
point?
And I had a recommendation that I could
Well,
just,
I just appreciate Eric. Eric and I have known each other for a while. We're in YPO together. And so I'm friends with several folks out at Wiley Post, not just Eric, but other individuals that own airplanes, own hangars, own self-fueling operations. And, you know, my goal, and what I've talked to Jeff about, is I really feel like the trust and this leadership and the staff, we need to make sure we're doing everything possible to make Wiley Post pro-growth and pro-business. That airport needs to be an economic engine for our city and our state, and it just isn't that right now. I'm not sure if it even makes money. You know, we're likely subsidizing it. So I just want us to have the position, anytime someone like Eric or Pronto or Express or anyone out, all these folks out at Wiley Post, when they come to the trust, the first response needs to be, yes, we will try to make this happen, not no, it's impossible. So sort of shifting the mindset to understanding where these folks are coming from. They're trying to build and create business in Oklahoma City. Eric's created a great business out there, and I've personally witnessed it and utilized it. But we just have an opportunity with Wiley Post that I feel like we're not taking advantage of. And Jeff is doing a great job changing the mindset and sort of rebuilding the culture towards that pro-business, pro-growth. But we've got to put this pedal to the metal on Will Rogers. And I just feel like, and I've talked to a lot of people at I've talked to a lot of people at Wiley Post, and it just seems like there's not a spirit of working with them to navigate some of these difficult challenges. It's more of a spirit of not being able to solve issues. And that's frustrating. We don't want that. On this particular issue, I'm curious on, you know, what the plan is. But I would just suggest we go back and try to figure out a solution that is beneficial to all involved. Particularly hearing about San Antonio, you know, are we out of line with what's going on around the country? Do our policies, our contracts, are they out of line and not, just create a more difficult business environment for our companies at Wiley Post? So a couple weeks ago, Senator Langford was in my office, and we had an agenda kind of going over things. And one of the things he brought up was Wiley Post. And, you know, I know we're heading towards getting a grant from the FAA for a new tower, and we want to do a lot of improvements at Wiley Post. But Senator Langford, even without my prompting, said we've got to change the mindset at Wiley Post to be more pro-business. And he provided some examples as well. You know, Mayor Holt has discussed it with me as well. This is sort of getting out there that this is an issue. A lot of the companies at Wiley Post, they have relationships with the politicians and the leadership in the city, and so this is not something that is you know, a secret. It's getting to be well known. And so I would just encourage us to do everything we can to create a really friendly business environment out there. We have the new high school out there, which is going to be great. You know, with potentially the tower, and we've got a lot of positive momentum for Wiley Post, and I just want to encourage the whole team to continue that momentum.
and so what I would suggest, that I can just hold off on the Frey Miller variance, and bring, what I would suggest, though, is bringing back the policy for consideration, not the individual items. That would be the role of the trust at the next meeting. It also, and I will say, it also, though, if the trust looks to change the policy, it would give other tenants an opportunity to comment too, because there would be some concern, I think, with what Eric's talking about from some other tenants, and so I think, though, that's a good opportunity to open up the conversation to others too. That's what I'd recommend, Terry, is I can just bring that particular Frey Miller request. I'll just put it on pause for now, and then have an agenda item next month to talk about the field policy.
Well, I think it's important to not make a decision throwing out everything without knowing
course.
the ramifications.
Yep.
So I do think that we need to address that from this standpoint. So I like your idea of
Okay.
putting this
Yeah.
policy.
And I would say, too, that I agree with what Bob's saying. I want us to be business friendly. I want us to be open at the airport. I feel like staff and what they're doing is approaching it from the perspective of the policies that we've had, and they're doing a good job with that. So I don't think it's a slight on staff at all. I think it's just what you're saying is exactly right. Instead of trying to make one-off decisions on that, I'd rather all of us sit down together, let everyone have their input.
Right.
We make a policy decision, and then you enforce the policy, and then we're not looking at exceptions. It's just granting based upon the policy. And this one, I think part of the issue is like what Eric's described, is it would be difficult to enforce that or ensure that. So let's just look at the policy and see if we don't, if there's an adjustment we can make in the policy that allows them to comply, but then doesn't put some onerous enforcement on the airport, and we can actually work together with them as a partner. So I think it's a good way to look at it, but then we let everyone that's involved be able to provide their input, and we look at it together and make a policy decision.
What's the process for something like that? Do you send out notices to all the tenants when we're going to propose policy changes or review a policy for changes? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, generally, when it depends on, I'm trying to think of another project that we've had. Well, as an example, when we started our studies out at Clarence Page over the last year, looking at moving some of that to industrial development as opposed to aeronautical, sent a notice out to the tenants, and we had an informational meeting. Otherwise, we've in the past just sent out notices to tenants about some policy change or something coming up, and invited them to provide input. So we'll have a process to gain input on it.
So you had mentioned bringing this back at the next meeting. Do you feel like a month is enough time to be able to?
I don't know, probably, but if not, then we'll keep this moving. Based on the time of the year, it may be a little challenging, but certainly I don't see a reason we couldn't bring this back and have it on the agenda for discussion next month.
Okay.
Doesn't need our approval. You can
Yeah,
just.
the policy today allows me to provide a waiver, and so my
Okay.
my plan is to move forward. I think what they're proposing is aligns pretty closely to the policy. My concern was the Frey Miller request was quite a diversion from that. That's the difference, and so I would just hold off. I wouldn't do anything on the Frey Miller request until the trust has had a chance to look at the policy.
Right, but the Pronto, they're not delayed. Now they can.
I don't
move on.
I don't plan to slow that one down. That seems to be anyway.
Okay.
Right.
Any other comments? Okay. Seeing none, we are adjourned.